Welcome to Angel Wing Begonia Part 1. I'm using a 12 by 16 sheet of light blue pastel matte. Now I've drawn my drawing onto the paper with a couple of different pastel pencils. I've used a dark red pencil and I've also used a purple pencil. Now I'm going to put the base coat in. This is a Richardson hand-rolled pastel number R19. You can also use a Rembrandt 545.5, which is red violet. I'm just painting the color all around, and then I'm going to blend it in with a blender. I'm being careful to apply the color around the flower petals, but also I'm filling in the entire vase with the red violet color. After filling in the entire vase with color, I'm using a sponge blender to push the pastel into the paper. For this, I'm using a soft tool wedge blender. A makeup sponge is not quite dense enough to push in the pastel, and these are made especially for that purpose. I also have some smaller blenders that I get online to move the pastel into the smaller areas. So I'm going to blend this in carefully and make it as even as possible. After blending, I'm using several pencils to even up the edge of the upper lip of the vase. I'm using a Carbothello 335 magenta to darken the inside lip. And I'm also using a Derwent number P200 magenta, which is a little bit brighter. I'm going to make the pink, add a little more pink to that, make it a little bit brighter. And for that, I'm using a Derwent Coral P190. And to brighten the coral, I'm going to use Carbothello 681. I darkened the whole top edge, and now I'm using a green pencil, which is a Carbothello 575 leaf green, because the beautiful leaf that's in the center of this composition was reflecting green down into the top of the lip of the vase. And to brighten up that green, I'm adding some Carbothello 560 leaf green pale over the top of the 575. I'm using 585 olive green to make this darker underneath this rim. To darken it even further, sometimes we need to add black to modify it. So I'm going to use 750 Carbothello black to just go over it and add a little bit darker color. I've drawn a dark outline for some plant materials, some stems that I see in this area, and we'll come back to it later. Now I'm going to enrich the red-violet color at the lip of our vase, Carbothello 335. Use a Carbothello 325 red to add brighter red on the right side of the lip, and brighten that up with a little bit of Derwent P190 Coral. See how that brightens up that edge? Then darken in the center with Carbothello 330 Purple, and carry that dark edge all the way over to the left side. Adding a little more 325 red as we move leftward. Add some 575 Carbothello leaf green right in the center after you add the 330 purple on the left-hand side. This is a reflection of the leaf through the bottle. Add a little 210 yellow to brighten over the green. Using the Derwent P190 coral, add brighter accents to the very lip of the vase. I'm pushing a little harder to make it a little bit brighter in this area. And to brighten it up even more, I'm going to use my Carbothello 100 white pencil to go over the coral. After brightening these areas with the pink and the white, I'm using the Carbothello 330 purple, which is like a dark alizarin crimson, to add some darker shading under the lip. This is actually where the stem begins to be visible through the vase that's going to go from the plant down into the water. So I'm shaping that with the 330, and I'm going to deepen it by adding some black 750 Carbothello over the top of that. Using several different colors, I'm going to add some value and definition to the lip area. I'm using Derwent P190 Coral to add some highlights across the edge. I'm also using Derwent P200 Magenta, which is a beautiful bright color. I like Derwent's colors, they're very bright. I'm also going to be using Carbothello 365, which is Violet Light, and Magenta 335. This is the 365 Violet Light. Carbothello line has some very lovely violet colors that I like to include. So we're shaping that lip and deepening it as needed. And I'm adding a few highlights with the Derwent 190 and with the Carbothello 100 white. I'm using Carbothello 330, which is the dark purple, and also Carbothello 750 black to sketch in the stem that runs down into the vase. Now the stem is of course colored and influenced by the color of the vase, so we're going to use several colors to really add some life to this vase, to the stem that's in the vase, so that it's not just black. I'm using black to darken the edge of the rim. Here I'm also deepening the color with the 335 magenta and the 365 violet light. And this little area that's between the blooms and the stem, I'm outlining that with 325 red, which is Carmine Red Deep, which is the darkest of the Carbothello reds, the richest of the color. And so I'm filling that in. And then I'm using 330 Carbothello Purple to darken the value a bit and blend it in with my finger. Now I'm brightening the area closest to the stem with a little bit of the Derwent 200 magenta color, which is really beautiful. Now here I'm sketching in where the stem is going to be, and I'm coloring that in with my 330 Carbothello Deep Purple. Use the 750 black Carbothello to deepen the color of the stem. And then just to the left of the stem, under the rim, use the Richardson number 14 to add a beautiful magenta highlight and blend that in with a blender. After blending, use the Carbothello 365, which is the violet light, to add accent color at the top, right underneath the rim, and a little bit at the bottom coming out from the stem. Also add some Carbothello Magenta 335. Just kind of blend all of those areas together and use your blender. Use Carbothello 100 white to add a strong highlight on the outside left edge of the neck of the vase. Use the Derwent P190 to add small dots of highlights on the neck of the vase, and also use a very sharp Carbothello 681, which is light flesh tint, to add very light highlights to the rim of our vase. I'm also using the Derwent 190, which is a beautiful bright pink. I like to use that. We're also going to use Carbothello 100 white to add some bright highlights as well. I'm going to use my 750 black right in this area where you see me adding the white highlight to darken the area that we outlined earlier, which is where part of the stem of the plant goes as it's poking out of the vase. So we're going to darken it, and we'll add some green into it later. Right now I'm going to add a white highlight in that area. It's part of the rim. I'm adding another pencil, Pitt number 192, to add some red color to our stem. Since the color of the stem is affected by the vase that it's in, the stem is green, but the color of the vase is going to affect that. I'm also adding some more Derwent colors to brighten that up in that area as well. You can use your Derwent P190 Coral and the Carbothello 100 White to add little highlights in the neck area of the bottle. I'm also going to darken the stem up with some 750 black Carbothello, and I'm also going to be using the Pitt 192 to add some deeper red-brown color. I'm adding a little more red color into the right side of the top of the vase because this color is reflected from the flower into the vase. And I'm using Carbothello 325 Carmine Red Deep to add a little more red in that area. I'm darkening the dark areas up in that rim just a little bit with the 750 black, and I'm also using the Pitt 192 to add the deep brown reflection up there. Now I'm enriching the pink color with the Carbothello 335 magenta, which is just gorgeous. And I'm also using the Carbothello 385 violet light in that area as well. And for the highlight area, Derwent P190 pink coral. Draw in the shapes of the reflections using your 335 magenta Carbothello pencil. I'm following my reference photo to put these shapes in. I'm also using the 365 violet light. I'm going to color in this small area on the left with the violet light. I'm also going to use the Derwent P200 magenta to add a brighter color in there. It's a very nice color. Now to darken up that edge a little bit, I'm using a Carbothello 385, which is Violet Deep. I'm darkening that area a little bit with Carbothello 330 purple and a 750 black. I'm using my white Carbothello 100 pencil to add a little white in that area, switching back to the Derwent P200 for a brighter color. And a little black with 750 next to that. So I'm adding the colors as I see them in this area. Here I'm adding a bit of that red with the Carbothello 325. The bright reds are reflected from the flowers. And I'm adding a little white around it. I'm adding a little more deep red with the 325 Carbothello. I'm also going to put a little bit of the Pit 192 right in between those two areas of red. And then using the Derwent Coral P190, I'm going to add a bright spot into the red. And a little bit of white over it to brighten it further. I'm adding some dark color with the Carbothello 330 purple. In this little area, I'm going to put a variety of colors. This is the 365 Violet Light. And I'm also going to use some P190 Coral, the Derwent pencil. It's kind of over the violet light, kind of modifies it. And this is the P200 Magenta. I decided I wanted it a little bit brighter. And the Carbothello 100 White to add a brighter highlight. I'm just placing colors that I see on my reference. Now this is the Richardson R14. So I'm putting that color in. And putting a little bit in the neck as well. It's a nice bright color. And I'm using a little Carbothello 100 white over top to brighten the highlight. Now I'm using my Carbothello 330 purple to sketch in the stem that's located in this area in the water, and I'm going to fill it in with the purple. And I'm going to use the Pit 192 over that red to make it a little browner. And I believe that color is Indian red. Now I'm using the Carbothello 325 red to add red color into that area, which is a reflection of those flowers. I'm using fairly moderate pressure on the deep carmine red to add that. And now I'm switched back to my 335 magenta to add the purpley tone down underneath where the stem is. And switching from the magenta to the violet light. Going back and forth as I see the colors in my reference. I'm continuing to use the same colors as I work in this little area of reflection. Adding a little more of the Richardson R14. It's a wonderful bright color. Really like this. The Richardson is a softer pastel, and so it puts deposits more color in the area, and that's beautiful and bright. I'm going to use my pencils to continue to modify that. This is the 365 Violet Light. Just adding a little of that color on top of it. It's a little darker. And a little red in that area. I'm adding Carbothello white for the highlight that's in that little area. It's kind of got an odd shape, so I'm just kind of sketching it around and making it deeper. And using black 750 Carbothello to put in the very, very darkest reflection on the outside edge of that glass, of our vase, rather. I'm continuing to use the same colors working carefully. I'm going to add a new one now. This is our yellow, our 210. Orange yellow, which is picking up reflection also from the begonia itself. The center of the begonia. Keep using the same colors to enrich the reflection. Adding a little white back into that area. Look how pretty that is. We're having a really beautiful reflection developing. I'm using a Carbothello 720 Cold Gray No. 1 pencil to paint in the outside edge of the highlight on the bottle on the left. Now into this gray color, I'm going to modify it by using my 750 black to gray it down some. And then I'm going to add different colors into it. Little spots of color. The yellow, the 210 yellow, and the Carbothello 100 on the very outside edge for the brightest reflection on the edge of the bottle. I'm going to put in a little more white here and there on that edge. And then I'm going to paint that little droplet at the top, outside edge of the neck of the bottle. I'm going to fill that in with the 325 dark red, and then outline the bottom of the drop with the 750 black. And then we'll put a highlight in with 100 Carbothello white. And to finish off this side of the bottle, we'll add some highlights with the 190 Derwent. Here and there, it just brightens up areas. This is the, as I said, the 190 Coral. And if it's not bright enough for you, if you push a little harder, it'll deposit more color. Now that we've finished the left side, we're going to start the bottom. So I'm outlining the shapes that I see in the bottom of my bottle with my Carbothello 335 magenta pencil. I'm following my reference drawing, so I'm carefully adding these shapes to the bottom of the vase. I'm drawing in the stem on the right hand side of the vase with my 330 Carbothello purple pencil. And now I'm going to add some color to the center of the vase. I'm adding in several different colors to the center of the vase. These are all Richardson colors. I'm using number 14, and then I'm adding Richardson 15 down near the bottom. It's a little bit brighter pink. And then for the lightest highlight area, I'll use Richardson number 10 to go right down around the bottom. And I'm going to blend these colors together. If you need to take off some color, use your kneaded eraser. I'm going to add a little more color. And this is number 14. I'm using my sponge, the larger sponge, to blend everything in. And I'm also going to use my smaller sponge to get around all the little places in the painting that I need to reach. And these work great for that area. I'm adding a little darker color in the center with the Richardson 17. And now I'm going to use the 17 to draw in the dark shape that's at the bottom of our vase. Here I've added the 17 and I'm going to blend it in with a blender. Join me for part 2 as we continue to paint this vase, the reflection, and these beautiful flowers. For more projects, please go to kwit.com.